Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07, the second day of January, and all is right with the world. Ohio State is out of the playoffs. Alabama is out of the playoffs. Georgia is out of the playoffs. I mean, college football is great again. Go Hoosiers. And today, Navy plays Cincinnati in the Liberty Bowl in Memphis. Go Navy. Beat everyone. Thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company here. Our first Friday of 2026. Joining us at 7:05, Heather Higgins. She's the CEO of Independent Women. 7:35, Emily Sturge with Campus Reform. 8:05, Nick Minock, WJLA, ABC 7. Give us a bit of a look back on his activities for 2025 and some things he's going to be covering for us in Northern Virginia and the D.C. area going into this new year. It's Larry O'Connor alongside a very busy Patrice Onwuka. It's been a busy week for you, Patrice. I'm glad you're here again.
It is. Good morning. Happy Friday, Larry. The first Friday of 2026.
Yeah, have you counted out how many Fridays we've got in store for us in 2026 yet? Do you have like a special calendar on your wall that sort of marks off?
I do not, but here is what I've decided. I will not start every half hour with a Friday. We will only reserve it for the top of the hour. How about that? That's going to make it a little bit more special. Noted.
Patrice, what a great New Year's resolution, may I say. And by the way, that's to make any New Year's Eve, New Year's resolution effective, I suggest that you have somebody who sort of holds you accountable for such things.
That is fine. Will we put a Friday jar?
We'll
put a Friday jar, like next to the swear jar. Okay.
Oh, God. That swear jar is overflowing for me right now, isn't it? Not that I would ever swear on the air, but off the air. Let's move on, shall we? As I mentioned, did you ring in the new year safely and sanely with your?
We did. We went to church, had a great time. The church, it was so packed, Larry. I mean, our church has a lot of people, but it was so bad, even just getting out between services. Oh my gosh, people were lined up around the building. It looked like an MC Hammer concert for all the people who were trying to get in there.
MC Hammer, that's a.
I know, that's a throwback.
MTV signed off the air. Mind. There's no MC. He doesn't do his thing anymore.
I'm not going to say a Diddy concert. That is definitely not going to use that analogy.
Oh, that would be a very different crowd.
Maybe more like a Beyonce concert. We'll say it like that. But this was church. People actually running into the house of the Lord. So that was fun.
You actually stayed up to midnight?
Yeah, we did. We ended up watching a little bit of TV, and we rang in the new year. And the boys made it. They were like bending over on the couch, nodding off at about 11:52. I said, "Okay, let's get you some sparkling cider," and they jumped up out in their PJs.
You gave them a sugar rush.
Gave them a little, and then and we rang in the new year. It was really sweet. It was really sweet. And then we slept in yesterday morning a little bit, which for me, Larry, is like sleeping in after 7 o'clock. I mean, if I'm still asleep after 7 a.m. even on a Saturday, Patrice is either dying or something had to have happened.
Sleeping in is relative to us on this program. That's
it is,
true.
Exactly.
Well, I was on with Hans von Spakovsky yesterday for New Year's Day celebration.
Terrific.
So I did not stay up. I stayed up till midnight Brazil time, I guess. It was 10 p.m. was as far as I could make it and still be functioning. So I'm happy to have done that. Well, good. Well, as I mentioned later in the program, we've got Nick Minock, WJLA, but he's already at it for this new year. He has been covering, of course, Northern Virginia politics in general, and most specifically some of the looniness that comes out of Fairfax County, including their long-anticipated and hard-fought-for meal tax that they finally pushed through, and that means you're paying a lot more for food, not just meals, I should say. Prepared foods. Here is the food tax as Nick reported it yesterday.
Starting in January, if you go to eat out at a restaurant in Fairfax County, you will be forced to pay a 4% meals tax. This also goes for if you go to a grocery store and order prepared meals. The Fairfax County Board of Supervisors passed the food tax this year to help address their budget challenges, even though voters rejected it twice.
The Fairfax County Board of Supervisors has talked about the affordability crisis in Fairfax County. Has this board made life more affordable for their residents?
Absolutely not. A lot of talk, but when you look at the action, 50% increase in real estate taxes in 10 years, meals tax, bag tax, new regulations that increase the cost of housing, no, they haven't addressed affordability at all.
That's Pat Harity from the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, and this is going to be a bit of a theme today because we had the swearing in of Zoran Mamdani in New York,
yes.
And of course he won his race by pointing out the obvious to every voter in New York City that, hey, this is a pretty expensive city to live in. And suddenly he is the new poster child for the Democrat wave that is supposed to hit this November in 2026 midterms, where everyone will do what Abigail Spanberger did, which is adopt that message and decide, yes, the problem is affordability. But at no point does anyone look back and say, well, how did everything become more expensive? And Pat Harity just sort of laid it out there. Listen to all of the taxes that the Democrats in Fairfax County have implemented, and add to that all the regulations that they have implemented to make everything cost more. And that's why we have an affordability crisis, because Democrats continue to meddle with the free market. And this meal tax, 4% on all prepared foods starting yesterday in Fairfax County, is just another example of it, Patrice.
Absolutely. I'm actually on their website, and they give some more details. Interestingly, the towns of Clinton, Herndon, and Vienna, and the cities of Fairfax or Falls Church, all these localities, they're going to be exempted from this tax increase. Why? Because they impose their own special meals taxes. This is an example here of, okay, their taxes in their increased taxes in one area, and other areas are smart not to increase their taxes, so there's nice healthy competition. Well, now you've eliminated the competition, and so you can't, as a Virginia resident and citizen or visitor, you cannot escape. And it's like a chokehold that they put on consumers to ensure that you cannot get away. They do the same thing with minimum for people who oh goodness, I can't. I've lost my words, Larry.
Oh no!
They do this very often on different things where, instead of being competitive, where the competition is who has lower taxes, who has lower fees, who has lower costs on businesses. Now these silly policymakers said, oh, we're just going to jack it up for everybody so that no one can escape. And I think everyone then, because they feel like residents cannot move, they were just going to have to swallow the cost, and that's not fair. And people actually do end up moving or revolting, or the businesses shut down.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, every time the government does that, there's only one thing the government can do. Well, there's two things the government can do to reduce the costs of things and make things more affordable. They can reduce your taxes, or they can eliminate regulations. But everything else they do is going to, by definition, make things more affordable. Even, Zoran Mamdani says we're going to have free daycare. We're going to have free buses. They're not free. No one's going to be volunteering to work free at those daycares. No one's volunteering to drive those buses for free or maintain those buses for free. They're not getting free gas for those buses. So clearly there's a cost involved. So how is it going to be free to the New Yorkers? Well, they're going to use tax money. Where does the tax money come from? They tax the citizens. So you end up paying more one way or the other. This food tax in Fairfax County is a perfect example. And add to that the 6% sales tax that already exists in Fairfax County. It means when you go out to eat in Fairfax County, just everything that's on the menu, jack up an additional 10% right there to give to the government. 4% food tax, 6% sales tax. It's absolutely insane. But we're still better off than California. In a moment, some of the new laws that just got put in place in California. We tell you this not just to point out how bad things are there, but to remind you that Gavin Newsom wants to go nationwide with his ideas. We'll tell you in a sec. First, though, it's 5:15, WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the 5s, it's Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Happy New Year. All right.
You know you can't make an MC Hammer reference, Patrice.
I know. I don't know. He just came into my mind.
Starting today yesterday in California, illegal aliens now have access to free government-paid health care. How about that?
As though they did not already. As we've seen and learned, California illegal immigrants have already been enjoying that. So what's the difference, Larry?
Well, because now all healthcare providers, the difference is, by the way, Medi-Cal, which is the state version of Medicaid in California, mostly funded by federal funds, already provides free unlimited health care to illegal aliens. But today, medical providers are prohibited from asking about their immigration status.
So now they can't track how many illegal immigrants they're providing health care for.
That's right. And by the way, there were probably some illegal immigrants who, even though they knew they were getting free health care in California, free health care that, of course, is paid for by taxpayers in Oklahoma and Alabama, they were probably reluctant to go because they didn't want to disclose that they were in the country illegally, lest they be caught in some way or tracked down. As you know, the Federal Circuit judge earlier this week determined that DHS can access that health care information from the Department of Health and Human Services and also from the states that are providing that health care so that they can utilize it for immigration enforcement purposes. So California's remedy, okay, stop asking what the immigration status is for your patients so we won't keep track of how much is going to people from other countries. So if you fly here, or let's say you cross the border in some way, let's say you fly here on a tourist visa, you're here 2-week vacation in America. Of course, you go to California, it's a big tourist spot. You decide you like it, you're going to stay. So you illegally overstay your visa. 2 months later, you get sick, you go to the doctor, it's all paid for by the people of California and, of course, heavily subsidized by the people of our country nationwide through federal taxes. Amazing, isn't it?
It's funny how all of that works. And if you, it's the irony here is that these policymakers know that this is a magnet to draw people here to this country illegally. And they're setting up a challenge because this is an administration which is so different than the previous administration who opened the door of our southern border, of every border, to anyone who wanted to come here regardless of their immigration status. They wanted illegal immigrants to flood into this country. And based on the promise of free everything, we're going to house you, we're going to give you debit cards full of cash, all of the SNAP benefits you want, take care of your health care, everything you need, there's a fire sale in the United States. Now we don't have that kind of administration. And so you have an administration that's saying, nope, the door is shut. In fact, we're going to make sure that we're removing people from the welfare rolls who should not be receiving welfare and actually reserving it for American citizens and those who should qualify for health care and for welfare benefits. And yet the state of California is saying, no, our doors are still open. So it's going to be a very big showdown, and I think it's a way to continue, it's a strategy to continue to ensure that the Trump administration's policies are before federal courts and tied up rather than stopping what's been going on for years, but particularly
in this case, we'll see if I'm assuming the federal government can force this issue, and that might be another states versus federal government argument that California tries to put up. But it's obvious what they're doing here, and you're right to say that this is what they want to do. They want to attract as many illegal immigrants, not just from other countries, but let's face it, if you're an illegal immigrant and you're living in Texas or Florida right now, why wouldn't you just move to California? It's the Golden State. Let's go. Also, by the way, while you're there, why not pick up a commercial driver's license? As you know, 17,000 illegal immigrants have commercial truck driver license, most of them acquired through the state of California, Patrice. And we've already documented several deadly accidents on the highways that were the result of and the responsibility of these illegal immigrants with their commercial driver's license. So last week, Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy revoked those driver's license, or gave a deadline for California to revoke them, because technically it's a state issue.
The deadline to revoke illegally issued unvetted foreign trucker licenses is still January 5. California does not have an extension to keep breaking the law and putting Americans at risk on the roads. Miss the deadline, Gavin, and the U.S. DOT will act, including cutting nearly $160 million in federal funding. What do you make of this?
So that's right. Of course, state of California gets $160 million in federal funding, ostensibly to maintain the interstate highways that are within those state boundaries. But, of course, money's fungible, and they use that money for whatever they want. Gavin Newsom has attempted to extend that deadline. Here's the write-up. The licenses, mostly for asylum seekers, were flagged in a federal audit for issues like mismatched legal status and vetting. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy ordered states to revoke invalid ones by January 5th or lose funding. But California shifted the remaining 17,000 to March 6th due to a class action lawsuit claiming inadequate notice. Newsom's office says federal staff okayed the delay in a December meeting, but Duffy says no. It's unauthorized, and he's threatening the $160 million in cuts. So there is going to be a deadline over that. California is claiming that they didn't get enough notice to revoke those licenses. This is hilarious to me. How much notice are you supposed to have when you get your license revoked for one reason or another? It's in the state of California, if you don't pay your state taxes, they will revoke your license. And they're not going to give you any sort of leeway. They're not going to give you any mercy. They're not going to, but of course now they want some sort of grace period or extension from the federal government on behalf of illegal immigrants who have broken the law. It's amazing the double standard here. I promise you, folks, don't try this at home. Don't try to go without paying your taxes and think that the state of California or any state is going to be kind to you about it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a no-brainer that you shouldn't be able to get a CDL unless you are a citizen, or at least here legally and can understand the rules of the road. I actually think there's still a huge loophole when it comes to drivers of delivery vehicles. I mean, you don't need a CDL to drive a smaller box truck, do you? Right? So, I'm wondering how many of these illegal aliens are driving around smaller vehicles, smaller box trucks that are still just as dangerous, can be just as deadly as a 16-wheeler. So, there's a lot to do. And unfortunately, those are state licenses, regular vehicle licenses. And I think that's a loophole that I would love to see the administration try to tackle, but that's a harder nut to crack.
Well, this is a deadline that is looming this Monday, so watch this space. We're giving a preview now. It's going to be a big story as to this clash between the U.S. Department of Transportation and the state of California over 17,000 illegal immigrant. I can't even believe we're having this argument.
I know.
These are people who are in the country illegally, who have obtained commercial driver's license. Trucking in this country, being a trucker, used to be there was nothing more American than that, being a trucker. And now the industry has in some way rewarded illegal immigrants for violating our laws, and they've now granted this number. What happened to American truckers? I know we've got plenty of them listening to our program, especially in the early hours. Why has the trucking industry? The next week we'll try to get somebody from the Trucking Association. I'm sure they have some sort of organization, and we'll get somebody on to explain this to us. In the meantime, Patrice, it's 5:25.
All right. Last year, you won't believe whose ratings tanked. Absolutely tanked. We'll share that with you. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 5:30.
Good Friday morning to you. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in the second day of January 2026. At 7:05, we'll speak with Heather Higgins, CEO of Independent Women. 7:35, Emily Sturge of Campus Reform. And then at 8:05, Nick Minnock, WJLA Channel 7. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning, Larry.
We have some cable news ratings in from 2025. And, well, not just cable news, just cable writ large. It's kind of interesting. The viewership on cable news, for those of you who still track legacy media. Take a listen. Number one, for the 22nd year in a row, I believe it is, Fox News Channel. Not only number one in news, but number one across all of cable. And this is what's really noteworthy. And this is all within demo, what they say. So you've got everyone who watches, and then you've got these targeted groups of people based on their age and their spending power, basically. These are the only ratings that matter in terms of advertisers, right? For Fox News, they actually increased year over year and by 11%. Let me just give you a little bit of insight into the media. Last year was a presidential election year. When you're in the business of what we do, news, analysis, politics, conversation about what everyone's talking about in news and politics. Presidential election years, especially a presidential election involving Donald Trump, is the be-all and end-all. It's the best. It doesn't get any better.
Yes.
You always have a dip in ratings the year after that election. Fox News went up by 11%. They increased
that tells
their
you
ratings.
A lot.
That
tells you. I mean, people are. It tells you a lot about where people are going to consume news that they find credible. You know what I mean? There's a good reason why they're going to Fox.
Number 2 cable channel or cable network across the board was ESPN. No surprise there, although it is kind of a surprise because you'd think ESPN would be number 1. But I guess we treat politics like a sporting event these days in this country, so maybe that's what's going on here. And sadly, when you watch sports, they drag politics into the mix.
Into it, yeah.
They increased by 3% from year over year. In the top 10, those are the only 2 networks that actually grew their audience in the last year.
Interesting.
Number 3 is MSNBC, down 27% from last year. There you go. That's that dip that you expect.
That's brutal.
Coming after a presidential election. Number 4 was HGTV. Number 5, TNT. Number 6, Hallmark. Why am I dwelling on those channels? Because I want to show you how far CNN has fallen. CNN was number 7 behind HGTV, TNT, Hallmark, and ESPN. They were down 16% year over year.
So you're telling me people would rather watch Charmed on TNT, like old episodes of Charmed with Alyssa Milano, than watch MSNBC and watch Rachel Maddow? That tells you something.
Or Hallmark movies where everybody already knows what's going to happen at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
What's also noteworthy, and Clay Travis, our colleague on Talk Radio, made this observation, that this is a kind of a departure from Trump 1.0, from the first term of President Trump. CNN and MSNBC would cynically point out that in the years after the 2016 election, when they were focused on the Russian collusion hoax and they were focused on all the outrage over Trump and the just all of the scandal du jour that amounted to nothing, at the very least, they were able to claim that their ratings went up, that Trump was good for TV, that Trump drew an audience. This time around, they cannot say that. This time around, MSNBC and CNN, by continuing to go about their business the way they've conducted themselves, they actually lost audience instead of grew their audience. They made the calculation that just like back in 2017 through 2020, even if they were lying and creating hoaxes and dumping on the president and his agenda on a daily basis, they would still juice up a big audience and they would build volume that way. Not so. They have lost audience by continuing the same habits. What do they say about someone who continues to do the same thing over and over again, even though it constantly fails? They're insane. And that's pretty much what's going on at MSNBC and CNN right now. They're showing all the hallmarks of insanity.
Well, and they're battling for a very dwindling audience. I mean, their audience pretty much are probably the same people, maybe a little bit more rabid and Antifa-like if you're on an MSNBC side versus the CNN, people who think that they're really smart and read the Washington Post editorial board page every day and then talk about it over scones with their girlfriends, and the grannies and the pickup line. So, I mean, I think that they're fighting for the same group of viewers, and I think people are reacting to how they covered the Biden administration, how they covered up the Biden deterioration from day one. And I think people are probably just sick of it at this point, because now you're starting to see them talking about, President Trump is deteriorating. We want to see with his health records, he's falling asleep. He's lost a pep in his step. And I got to think that the viewers are saying, well, wait a minute. Hold my remote. Where were you for the past how many years during President Biden? So, I mean, maybe some of that plays into this lost viewership.
Maybe I think you're right. I think that's quite possibly it. But I just don't understand it just from a business sense. It's like when you go to business with a product or a service, and it's similar, like soda pop. Let's say let's say your Coke or your Pepsi or your Dr. Pepper or what have you. You know that the big guys, Coke is going to have the lion's market share, right? So
yes.
What do? Do you replicate what everybody in the lower tier is doing, or do you go after the big guy? Do you try to offer a better alternative to what the big guy is doing? And for 22 years, Fox News has presented news and political analysis in a very specific, distinctive kind of way. And for decades now, all the other competitors, they're not interested in actually offering the customer base a similar type of product. Instead, they just want to keep doing what they've been doing, what all the other lower tier products are offering. It's like, how many times do we have to tell you we don't want RC Cola?
Well, it's RC Cola. I mean, it's like, okay, do you dive into your niche and milk your niche for as much as you can, or do you try to go after a big, broad swath of people? And yes, I understand. You probably, sometimes it makes sense to go into a niche, and I think that's where MSNBC has figured out that that's their niche, which is the rabid radicals. CNN, they think that their niche is just is some of those radicals plus the intellectual Ivy Leaguers, those folks. And it's just not big enough for them.
No, it's not. And at some point, well, they're going to have to pay the piper because it's a losing concern. Congratulations to our buddies over there at Fox News. And interestingly, they do have some competition now. And let the best man win. 544.
Hey, it's Chris Plant. Find out what the media don't want you to know. Coming up this morning at 9, right here on WMAL.
We've got an update on what's with all the 90s MTV Raps stuff going on here. Patrice, what have you done? We've gone from MC Hammer to Tone Loc, Funky Cold Medina. Really?
Yeah. I mean, this is great. I know our Gen X listeners are bopping their heads to this. Thank you, Michael.
Hold on. Is this Tone Loc songs all sounded the same? Is this Funky Cold Medina? No, this is it is Funky Cold Medina? Oh, because it sounds exactly like the other one that he had, the other hit. What was the other hit? Wild Thing. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, it does sound like Wild Thing.
Of course, because they're the same song. All right. See, I get easily distracted by such things. Chris Plant, it's funny, when Chris Plant is on the air, he gets distracted by things he sees. Have you noticed that our studio at WMAL has no windows?
Yes.
There's a reason
for that reason. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chris.
I mean, it's a little bit like a coffin, but okay.
In our old studio, we had a big window, and Chris would be on the air in the middle of a monologue, and he goes, "Oh, there goes Larry O'Connor. Yeah, it reminds me of a story about Larry O'Connor." And he'd be off. He'd eventually get back to where he's supposed to be. So the new studio was designed. It's basically a Chris Plant controlled environment is the idea.
Although he has a beautiful mural that surrounds the room
Lovely mural,
of the D.C. landscape.
There's the Washington Monument. That reminds me of the Washington Monument. Yeah. Although he's not facing that mural, is he?
No.
It's to his back. See, there's a reason for all of this. It's all by design. Now, I get distracted by audio, things I hear. I can be doing my show in the middle of, the convention floor at CPAC and have Looney
No, then
Tunes.
you get distracted by all the ladies who come up to you, Larry! Folks, if you have not come out to CPAC, you should see it. It's actually a lot of fun. All of these little ladies come up and Larry... Okay, sorry. I'm getting distracted. Never mind.
You're making it sound like, Anyway.
You are a celebrity at CPAC, by the way. You are.
So were you, Patrice. The show
not
is
at
a
your
celebrity.
tier.
Anyway, the point is I get distracted by me. See, I'm already off the rails here because I heard Tone Loc, the bass line from Funky Cold Medina as we came in from the break. And I'm just gone, see? Anyway, what were we going to talk about? Oh, yes, an update on the scandals in Minnesota. As we discussed yesterday, all of the cable news and legacy corporate news media, they recognize a scandal when they see it. They've been investigating the journalist, the YouTube independent citizen journalist Nick Shirley. Yes, that's the real scandal. That's the real enemy here. Except for one outlier. As I just mentioned, Fox News, it does have some competition out there, obviously, from Newsmax and some of the other streaming platforms like One American News, Real America's Voice, all of that jazz. But News Nation is trying to carve out a niche for themselves that isn't necessarily ideological one way or the other, but they do some pretty thoughtful stuff, setting aside Chris Cuomo's show. But they've actually done so. I think Leland Vittert has done a pretty good job. Their weekend show, Batya, is wonderful. She's a real rising star.
Yes.
And they've just hired Katie Pavlich away from Fox News.
Yes, from Fox News, yeah.
And starting in January, she'll be starting her own primetime show. So, I mean, big happenings over at News Nation. And if this is any indication, News Nation is definitely trying to, well, make a name for itself and actually following news stories. Check this out, how they covered the Minnesota scandal.
This building right behind me has 22 different home and community-based healthcare companies registered in the building. It's only 4 floors. I walked in there yesterday trying to find a number of them. Many of them are they appear to be just window fronts, door fronts, with nobody behind. So same story, different location. We're here in St. Paul at this building, which looks like a warehouse or a dilapidated old building. Inside this building, there are 60 registered home and community health care organizations inside this one building. We're here in northeast Minneapolis, and we're at a building that I believe is on the radar of authorities. They have questions about it. A lot of the businesses in here are home health care businesses. Of the total businesses, there's 37. 17 of them are home health care businesses. There's just layer upon layer upon layer of fraud throughout this city, Jessica. As for whether Governor Walz is going to testify before the Oversight Committee, that remains to be seen. We asked him at his office if he was going to testify, and we have yet to hear back.
So did you notice something there? They actually didn't, expose or try to dox or publicly shame the YouTube citizen journalists who went and
they used
did
his video.
That. In fact, they pursued the story and, frankly, did with a fancier microphone and fancier camera exactly what Nick Shirley did. They actually went and investigated these buildings, but other buildings. So kudos to News Nation. And also, boy, this thing continues to grow because most of what's already been investigated has to do with these child daycare centers. When you start getting into home health care centers and you've got 70 under one roof and they all appear to be window fronts, that's a major scandal there. Good for News Nation.
It is a major scandal, and in fact, they have on their cover of their website right now. They've got a story about the Small Business Administration looking into 7,000 borrowers of some sort of small business loan, or they're banning 7,000 borrowers from the SBA, probably fraudulent loans in Minnesota. So, I mean, this is an onion that continues to be peeled back, and I'm glad that News Nation is doing what all of those other networks, all the other legacy media outlets, most of them are refusing to do, which is really to look into the story. I mean, even the local affiliates could take 5 minutes of their time and take someone off of, how high the snow pile is and actually go and knock on a couple of doors and and see, why is it that there are 50 home health aid companies out of one door and there's nobody there? It literally just is a plaque on the wall. So, I mean, it's an indictment on even local news outlets to actually do their jobs.
Of course, because, well, they're not in the business of news anymore, are they? It's 5:55. Coming up, New York City has a brand new mayor. He gave his speech, and it sounded like it was written by Karl Marx or Vladimir Lenin or Fidel Castro, or you get the picture. He said something that will really sort of resonate, I think, with most Americans. We'll share it with you coming up in a moment.